Our final installment in the tense equals time presentation will discuss the 5 future tenses. The 5 future tenses have a variety of functions, which will be expanded and explained in the following slides. The simple future and the future continuous and the future with be going to are some of the more common future tenses, with the future perfect and the future perfect continuous being less commonly used. The simple future is usually used to describe a future plan, to describe something that will happen in the immediate future based on current circumstances, and to express promises or make requests. To form a positive sentence, you would take the subject, add will, and then the base verb form. To create the negative, you would put not. You can also use never between the auxiliary will and the base verb form. A lot of times the speaker will contract the subject with the auxiliary will, so it might sound like I'll. We use the simple future to describe a future plan, to describe something that will happen in the immediate future based on current circumstances, and to express promises or make requests. For example, tomorrow Sean will see Once and Future Band play at the Regency Ballroom in San Francisco. Notice here they're using the adverbial phrase tomorrow and then will see. Let's look at the second example. Let's imagine the phone rings. Bring, bring. And Carl hears it and yells, I'll get it. You can see that he's got the subject I contracting with the auxiliary verb will, then the base verb form get. Notice he's not putting an S on there. It's just base verb form get. Third example. Bill asked Erica, will you marry me? And she said, yes, I will. And so that is, he's making a request, will you marry me? And she is expressing a promise, yes, I will. A couple more examples that are important to take note of. Carl won't buy the book because he already has a copy. Notice how the dependent clause, that starts with because, and then he, and then we've got has as the verb. Notice how the dependent clause is in the simple present. This will always be the case, or should always be the case, with future tense independent and dependent clauses. Next one, Cleifas Fogg will not return to Busan until next August. So we've got the adverb not creating the negative between the auxiliary will and the base verb form return. To form a yes or no question in the simple future, it's not too tough. You start with the auxiliary verb will, followed by the subject, and then the base verb form. For example, will you be in Los Angeles next year? Short answer could be I will, or yes, I will. For a WH or an H question, you would start with the WH or H question word, when, where, why, who, for example. Or you can have the H question words like how often, how much will it cost, for example. Or how will you defend yourself in court? Notice how you've got the how followed by the will, then the subject, then the base verb form defend. Or, why will Alyssa attend the gala, which is a big celebration? All right, let's do our comprehension check 10. This is our first comprehension check of the future tenses. The question is, which sentence below uses correct form in the future simple? Is it A, he will sees you next week? Or is it B, he will see you next week? Pause the video, take an educated guess, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Moving on, we are journeying into our second future tense. This is called the future continuous. So it's going will plus be, then verb ing. To get the negative, you would put not or never between the auxiliary will and between be. So the future continuous is used to describe an action verb, something that will start and take place over a period of time in the future, and it can go with a time phrase. Typically only used with action verbs, okay? Remember, those continuous tenses are more suitable to actions. Let's look at a few examples. He will be writing a new screenplay. And typically when you're saying it, you would contract the he with the will, so it would sound like he'll. Second example, I will be learning Photoshop, or I'll be learning Photoshop. Third example, she won't be working for Mr. Smith. A few more examples. Elisa will never be traveling to a cold climate again. And we will be running the event at 2:00 p.m. tomorrow. So that is the future continuous. You're dealing with will, and you're dealing with be, and then the verb with an ing ending. Comprehension check 11. If the independent clause is written in a future tense, such as simple future or future continuous, the dependent clause should also be written in a future tense. Pause the video and we'll be right back. All right, I hope you had a chance to answer that. Next question is regarding question formation in the future continuous. For the yes or no, we start with will. We'll follow it with the subject, then be, then the verb ing, and the punctuation is a question mark. For example, will Mark be drawing the new plans? Yes, he will. You can also say yes, he will be. For the WH or H question word, you've got that plus the auxiliary will, then the subject, then be, then verb ing. For example, how will you be calculating the costs of the project? Or when will we be driving through the countryside of California? After the fall semester, short answer. Moving on to our third tense for the future, we call it the future with be going to. To form it, we have a subject plus a be conjugation in the simple present. So either I am, you are, or he, she, it is, we are, or they are, plus going to, and then the base verb form. If we want to create the negative, we can put not between the be and going to. The future with be going to is used to speak of plans that will happen in the future, to make predictions, often based on sensory evidence, for immediacy, with words contracted and reduced, like in this example. I'm gonna go now, bye. All right, a few more examples. Matt is going to fly to Moscow on Thursday. Now, if I was saying that in a fluent, kind of quick way, I would say Matt's gonna fly to Moscow on Thursday. Next example, it's going to rain. This might be something that I'd say based on what a person can see by looking at a sky filled with clouds. Third example, the Prime Minister of Iceland is not going to be at the conference tomorrow. Spoken, we're gonna be at the Department of Motor Vehicles at 4:30 p.m. If I was writing that out, I'd probably say we're going to be at the DMV at 4:30 p.m. So that's we're gonna be, that's spoken. We are going to be, that is written. Question formation with yes or no questions. Be going to, you start with the be verb conjugation in the simple present, followed by the subject, then going to, then the base verb form. Example, are you going to be inviting Sam? Yes, I will. Yes, I'm going to. What you would then, to form the WH or the H question word, you've got that plus am, are, or is, plus subject, plus going to, plus base verb form, plus question mark. For example, how are you going to sing with a scratchy throat? Or when is Clint going to speak at the conference? After Joanna completes the roundtable discussion. Again, when you're saying it out loud, it does get reduced to something like this. When's Clint gonna speak? Or how are you gonna sing? You don't have to say that, but other people say it. And it's important to understand what they're saying if they say it. You also have the freedom to say it, but if you want to be more formal, you could enunciate the words individually. Comprehension check number 12. Read the following and answer the question. Sarah plans to go on a picnic. She looks out the window, sees big dark clouds on the horizon, and a strong wind blowing through the trees. She says to her friend Sam, "We can't go on the picnic anymore. It's going to raining, it's going to rain, or it's been raining." Pause the video, take a guess, and we'll be right back. All right, our fourth out of 5 future tenses is known as the future perfect. It is less commonly used, but it will be used from time to time. So to form it, we go subject plus will, have, plus the past participle. It's typically not used with negative tense, with negative terminology. Let's look. We use the future perfect to share experiences that will happen or be completed by a certain time or date in the future. Please note this tense commonly pairs with for plus a quantity of time and by plus date or time. Example, Maureen will have graduated by 2025. So that means by this date, this action, graduating, will be completed. Sam will have visited 10 countries by the end of this year. Or in 2030, Heather will have taught for 22 years. To form the questions with a yes or no in the future perfect, we go will plus subject plus have plus past participle and then your question mark. Example, will Tom have gone to bed by 10 p.m. tonight? Short answer, yeah or yes, he will have. For a WH or an H question word, we start with that, followed by the auxiliary will, then the subject, then have, and past participle, and then your punctuation mark, the question mark. Example, when will we have completed this unit? This unit will have been completed by week 5. Let's do our penultimate comprehension check. Penultimate means second to last. Please complete the sentence below using the future perfect. The verb is learn. So please, in the future perfect, try to complete this sentence. By 2025, shiny, 3 languages. Pause the video and we'll be right back. All right, and our final future tense is called the future perfect continuous, sometimes called the future perfect progressive. And it goes like this: subject plus will plus have plus been plus verb ing to make our positive sentence. We use it to describe how long an action verb will be taking place for over a period of time by a certain time or date in the future. Please note, this tense also commonly pairs with for plus quantity of time and or by plus date or time. For example, Ron will have been studying music for 15 years by 2025. And also, by this time next year, Sarah will have been living in California for 3 years. And this is a tense that does also get reduced in speech, so it could sound something like this. Ron will have been studying. Or Sarah will have been living. Try saying it. Ron will have been. And Sarah will have been. All right, to form the questions, yes or no question in the future perfect continuous, we start with the auxiliary will followed with the subject, then have, been, and then verb ing, and then your trusty question mark. For example, will Lynn have been playing piano for 30 years by 2025? Yes, she will have been. Now, this is not necessarily the most common phrase. You're not going to hear this tense used that much, but just to make sure we cover all our bases, I wanted to explain it. To form a WH or an H question, we start with who or where or when or why, or we can say how often, how much, or how, followed by will, subject, have, been, verb ing. Example, where will you have been living for an extended period of time by September? In Oakland. All right, in our final comprehension check, what kind of verbs can we use with future perfect continuous? Action or non-action? Pause the video, take a break, take a guess, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. And that concludes our presentation. I wanted to thank you for your participation. We have now covered the 14 English verb tenses. Good work. Review the material if you feel there's anything you missed. You can write down questions or bring them up in class. And remember, tense equals time. Thank you so much.